The Wallace Line is a biogeographic boundary that separates the flora and fauna of Australia and Asia. It was proposed by the British naturalist Alfred Russel Wallace in 1859 and is named after him. The line runs through the Indonesian archipelago, specifically between the islands of Bali and Lombok, and marks a significant transition zone between the distinct ecological regions. The Wallace Line has had profound effects on the distribution of plants and animals in the region. Prior to the formation of the line, about 15,000 years ago, the Sunda Shelf connected the land masses of Southeast Asia, Borneo, Java, and Sumatra. During the last ice age, when sea levels were lower, these land masses formed a continuous land bridge, allowing species to migrate between them. However, as the ice age ended and sea levels rose, the Sunda Shelf was submerged, creating deep oceanic trenches that served as a barrier for many species. This separation caused the development of distinct ecosystems on either side of the Wallace Line, leading to the differentiation of flora and fauna. To the west of the Wallace Line, in the region known as Sunderland, the flora and fauna are more closely related to those of mainland Asia. This area includes the Malay Peninsula, Sumatra, Java, and Borneo. These regions were once connected to the Asian landmass, and species were able to freely disperse across the land bridge. To the east of the Wallace Line, in the region known as Wallacea, the flora and fauna are more related to those of Australia and New Guinea. This area includes the islands of Bali, Lombok, Sulawesi, the Moluccas, and parts of Timor. These islands were never connected to the Asian mainland, and their isolation allowed for the evolution of unique species that are found nowhere else in the world. The effects of the Wallace Line are particularly evident in the distribution of animals. For example, on the Asian side of the line, tigers, elephants, rhinoceroses, and orangutans are present. Whereas on the Australian side, marsupials such as kangaroos, wallabies, and possums dominate. The line also separates bird species, with Asian species to the west and Australian species to the east. Here are some additional points about the Wallace Line and its effects. Biodiversity differences. The Wallace Line represents a stark contrast in biodiversity between its eastern and western sides. The western side, Sunderland, is characterized by a higher diversity of mammal species, including large predators such as tigers and leopards, while the eastern side, Wallacea, has a higher diversity of reptiles, birds, and marsupials. Evolutionary isolation. The Wallace Line acted as a barrier that limited the movement of species between Australia and Asia. This isolation played a crucial role in driving the evolutionary divergence and the development of unique species on both sides of the line. Many species in Wallacea have evolved in isolation, leading to high endemism, meaning they are found nowhere else in the world. Great faunal exchange. Despite the barrier created by the Wallace Line, there have been instances of dispersal and exchange of species between Australia and Asia. During periods of lower sea levels, land bridges intermittently formed, allowing limited migration of certain species. These periodic connections facilitated the movement of some animals, such as marsupials, between the two regions. The Wallace Line is a significant biogeographic boundary that has shaped the biodiversity and evolutionary history of the region. It highlights the impact of geographic barriers on the distribution of species and provides valuable insights into the processes of speciation and evolution.